Hey everyone, Adam Beck here from HardcoreGamer.com, and today we're taking a look at a hot new item on the market. Released on November 21st, of course, we're talking about Elgato's new capture card, the 4K 60 Pro. Elgato was nice enough to send us over a review kit, and we were thoroughly impressed. If you haven't realized by the name or the video playing in the background, the biggest appeal with this capture card over all the others is that it's able to record as high as 3840 by 2160, or 4K, and upwards of 60 frames per second. Elgato is a company that made a name for themselves in the mainstream market with easy-to-use capture devices, and only recently went to the enthusiast crowd with the HD60 Pro. Their step into 4K is a big one, especially considering more and more devices are coming out 4K ready. But is it worth the $400 investment? The first thing you should know is that this is a pretty demanding device. It requires an Intel Core i7 6000 series or a Ryzen 7 CPU, along with an NVIDIA 1000 series or an ATI Radeon RX Vega GPU. These aren't the most insane requirements, but they are far more demanding compared to the HD60 line of cards. You might be able to get away with a comparable i5 CPU model, but even then it might cause problems whilst recording. Because this requires a lot of bandwidth, an open PCIe slot on a 4x, 8x, or 16x bus is mandatory, and this only supports high-definition HDMI signals, so you won't be doing much retro gaming on this. This was designed to record the newest consoles out there, along with potentially your PC if you want to pass the GPU through it. Outside of all that, what's most important above all else is the performance, and the 4K 60 Pro definitely delivers. As stated before, the card is able to record at 4K resolution and as high as 60 frames per second, and it does it without much trouble. It should be noted that while this device has the capabilities of recording at 60 frames per second, this video is only 30 frames per second because most of the games recorded don't actually run at a high frame rate. The card caps off at 140 megabits per second, which should be more than enough for most people, especially considering services such as YouTube limits bitrate substantially. As you can tell in the background, the footage has turned out crystal clear with minimal issues. There can be a little bit of latency here and there while playing through your PC, but it's usually minuscule. We did run into some audio issues that would add static to the sound, along with some frame drops. Fortunately, these only seem to be present in the preview while recording, and not in the final render itself. Now, if you're familiar with any of Elgato's gaming products, then you're probably familiar with their game capture software. The 4K 60 Pro introduces a brand new program into the mix, simply called 4K Capture Utility. This is a sleek but somewhat constrained program that many may gravitate away from and move towards third-party applications such as OBS. I should be clear in saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and is actually my preferred way of capturing footage, but there are some limitations. For the most part, it works and works very well. You press the record button and it will record your footage at a desired bitrate, frame rate, and resolution. The problem comes in the form of lacking features that very well could be patched in later on. For starters, the bitrate slider in the options is very touchy. I wish Elgato would have just put in a numeric field, but I guess I'll have to suffice with the extra 0.2 megabits per second. In addition, the screenshot button in the bottom right is just there. I almost thought it didn't work at first as there's no real feedback when you press it, and it took me a while to realize that the still images go to your desktop and can't be assigned anywhere else. There's also no streaming capabilities in this program, meaning you will have to go to third-party programs such as OBS if you want to stream beautiful 4K resolution across the internet, provided that you have the bandwidth to do so. Finally, while this isn't a knock against the program itself, I still would have loved to have seen the implementation of profiles. Having to manually set up bitrates and resolutions when moving between consoles can be a chore. Now, I sound negative on this, but considering this is a 1.0 release, Elgato has done fairly well. We didn't run into many technical issues, so recording our Ultra HD footage went off without a hitch. There's even an option to record at 1440p, which is my personal preferred gaming resolution on PC, but it doesn't really have much use on consoles. So in the end, this is an incredible value for some, but it can be a hard sell for others. It's still far more affordable than any other device that's capable of capturing 4K at 60 frames per second, but it's still the price of a modern console. It's hard to say whether or not the market is ready for full mainstream consumption. Sure, we have the Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 Pro now, but when it requires 3 times the bitrate compared to 1080p, this ends up being more of a future-proofing tool than anything else. Regardless, if you're in the industry dealing with content creation, this will be incredibly appealing, and Elgato Gaming nailed it out of the park with this one. As always, if you like this review, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. Otherwise, for everything gaming related, head on over to hardcoregamer.com for your fix.